τρεις πρώτες θέσεις του Πανελληνίου Πρωταθλήματος. Να δούμε και τις υπόλοιπες κατηγορίες, τις τρεις πρώτες στη γενική κατάταξη. Από την Κένια και Privilege από την Ελλάδα στις δρομές της άλλης που βλέπετε αυτή τη στιγμή να τερματίζουν, καθώς έχουμε τους τρεις πρώτους νικητές στο γενική κατάταξη.
This is my video update from Athens, Greece on this Sunday, midday, November the 12th. Let's talk about some news. And I have some really, really good news for everybody that is watching this video. Some really, really good news. It looks like the Nord Stream sabotage mystery has been solved. We are one step closer, a whole lot closer, to finding out who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. And all of this is because of some absolutely amazing journalism and investigative reporting from the Washington Post. We are talking Pulitzer Prize winning reporting from the Washington Post. And it looks like we actually have our first suspect, our first saboteur. We have our first saboteur, and he goes by the name of Roman Chervinsky. Roman Chervinsky, our first real-life suspect, saboteur in the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. Roman Chervinsky. So this guy is a military official. He's an intel specialist. And according to the Washington Post, Mr. Chervinsky, he was taking orders. First of all, he was called the coordinator. So this guy was called the coordinator. I like that, the coordinator. And this guy was taking orders from military officials who were one step removed, just one step lower than, you guessed it, General Zaluzhny. and here's the best part about this story. The best part about this story is that the Zelensky government and the Ukraine police, or the Ukraine investigators, or the German police and the German investigators, they don't even have to find Mr. Roman Chervinsky. They don't have to look for him. They don't have to issue an arrest warrant, Interpol, none of that stuff. Because the best part about this story is that Mr. Chervinsky is already in prison. So they already got this guy, not for the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage, for some other charges. So they don't even have to go looking for this guy. How convenient. How convenient. And the reporting from the Washington Post, all of this information, It's all coming from the Zelensky regime and various other U.S. and European anonymous officials. So we know that the information that the Washington Post is reporting to us is 100% legit, because it is all coming from those anonymous officials and from the Zelensky regime. So we know that this is fact. You know, if the Ukraine government says this is the guy, or this is one of the guys, well, you know, we know that the Ukraine government and the Zelensky regime would never, ever lie to us. Never, ever, ever. Especially if it involves taking out Zelensky. Oh boy. I've been saying for a while now that Zelensky's the guy. He's the guy behind Nord Stream. And it looks like we're getting close to Zelensky. The noose is tightening around Zelensky. The circle is tightening around General Zelensky, the real mastermind behind the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. Mr. Roman Chervinsky. He's the coordinator. So let me read you. Let's do this. Let me go right over there to the metro parking area, and let me read you some excerpts from this Washington Post amazing investigative journalism article that has taken us one step closer to solving the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. All right, let's go to the police park. Parking for the city, for the metro station, Evangelismos Metro, which is right over there, decked out in the colors of the Ukraine flag. The police park. Let's go. Here's some music over here. So let's go right here. I think this is a good spot where I can read you all what the Washington Post is saying in this report. So let's get to it. The title of this Washington Post article is Ukrainian Military Officer Coordinated Nord Stream Pipeline Attack. Roman Chervinsky, a colonel in Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, was integral in the brazen sabotage operation, say people familiar with planning. A senior Ukrainian military officer with deep ties to the country's intelligence services played a central role in the bombing of the Nord Stream natural gas pipelines last year, according to officials in Ukraine and elsewhere in Europe, as well as other people knowledgeable about the details of the covert operation. Oh boy, I hope I can. I just hit a spider's web. I hope I can get through this article without busting out laughing too much. All right, let's continue. The officer's role provides the most direct evidence to date, tying Ukraine's military and security leadership to a controversial act of sabotage that has spawned multiple criminal investigations and that U.S. and Western officials have called a dangerous attack on Europe's energy infrastructure. Roman Chervinsky, a decorated 48-year-old colonel who served in Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, was the coordinator of the Nord Stream operation. People familiar with his role said, managing logistics and support for a 6-person team that rented a sailboat under false identities and used deep sea diving equipment to plan explosive charges on the gas pipelines. On September 26, 2022, 3 explosions caused massive leaks on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which run from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea. The attack left only one of the 4 gas links in the network intact as winter approached. The coordinator, he's the coordinator who put together a 6-person team and rented a sailboat. Oh boy. Let's continue. Chervinsky did not act alone, and he did not plan the operation, according to people familiar with his role, which has not been previously reported. The officer took orders from more senior Ukrainian officials who ultimately reported to General Valery Zaluzhny, Ukraine's highest-ranking military officer, said people familiar with how the operation was carried out. They spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive details about the bombing, which has strained diplomatic relations with Ukraine and drawn objections from U.S. officials. All roads lead to Zaluzhny. They had this one set up from months ago. The BBC, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, they all reported on the possibility, the rumor, that Zaluzhny was somehow involved in the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. And now we've got the smoking gun evidence. We've got the guy that connects Zaluzhny to the attack. Through his attorney, Chervinsky denied any role in the sabotage of the pipelines. All speculations about my involvement in the attack on Nord Stream are being spread by Russian propaganda without any basis, Chervinsky said in a written statement to the Washington Post and Der Spiegel, which conducted a joint investigation of his role. Chervinsky's role illustrates the complex dynamics and internal rivalries in the wartime government in Kiev, where Ukraine's intelligence and military establishment is often in tension with its political leadership. So, Chervinsky, bro, my man, Roman, listen up. This has nothing to do with Russian disinformation. No, bro, you're being thrown under the bus by the Zelensky regime and the Biden White House. Oh boy, he's still blaming this guy. This guy is about to be blamed for the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. And he's still saying that this is Russian disinfo. He's stuck on the Russian disinfo narrative, even though he must understand that he's being scapegoated by the Zelensky regime. And he's still going with this is Russian disinfo. It's Putin's fault. Oh boy, the brainwashing, the Russia did it brainwashing is very strong. It's very strong. I love how the Washington Post gives the whole game away, right? They say that that Chervinsky's role illustrates the complex dynamics and rivalries between the military and the Zelensky regime. They like give it all away in that paragraph. Oh boy. Chervinsky is being held in a Kiev jail on charges that he abused his power stemming from a plot to lure a Russian pilot to defect to Ukraine in July 2022. Authorities allege that Chervinsky, who was arrested in April, acted without permission and that the operation gave away the coordinates of a Ukrainian airfield, prompting a Russian rocket attack that killed a soldier and injured 17 others. So how convenient. They already have this guy in prison. They already have him in jail. And now they are going to pin the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage on this guy. And all he can do is say that it's Putin's fault. Oh boy. How convenient for Zelensky. Right at the same exact time that Zelensky is looking to maneuver Zaluzhny out, we get this article from the Washington Post. How convenient for Zelensky. right at the exact moment where we see a massive power struggle, a massive row between Zelensky and Zelensky, a fight that the entire collective West media is talking about between the general of Ukraine and the clown puppet president. Right at this exact moment, we get this Washington Post article citing Ukraine administration sources as saying that they've got one of the guys who did the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. They've got the coordinator, and the coordinator can be traced back to the main mastermind, who is none other than General Zelensky. How convenient. Oh, man. So you would think that that given all of these revelations, these shocking revelations, that Ukraine's military, because any way you slice it or dice it, Ukraine's military, this is basically saying that Ukraine's military was behind the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. A lot of music coming from up there all of a sudden. So let's move down a bit away from the music. So you would think that that Germany, now having a clear understanding that it was Ukraine's military that masterminded the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline, that Germany would be outraged. I don't know. Maybe Germany would stop all support for Project Ukraine until this investigation wrapped up. That's what a lot of music from everywhere, from every direction. Let's see. I'm gonna have to go up this way. I'm gonna have to go up here to move away from the music. So that's what one would think, that Germany would say, we need to put a pause in all of our support for Project Ukraine until we can get to the bottom of what's going on. But nope, that's not what's happening. That is not what is happening. Germany announced that they're going to double support for Ukraine from 4 billion to 8 billion euros next year. Oh, I love how this works. Blow up our pipeline, double the money. And this is military aid, by the way. So they're doubling the money to the military that allegedly blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, Germany. Okay, so either Germany's leaders are the absolute dumbest, Baerbock, Habeck, and Schultz. Either they're the dumbest leaders in all of history, hands down, no one even comes close. Either they are the dumbest leaders in all of history, or they're deliberately trying to destroy Germany. Like, as a country, they're deliberately trying to destroy the country, trying to embarrass the country, trying to bankrupt the country, trying to destroy the country's military stockpiles. I don't know. It's one of the two. It has to be one of the two. Baerbock is probably the first option when it comes to not so bright leadership, and maybe Olaf as well. But Habeck, I don't know. Habeck, he strikes me as a bit more clever. I think he's one of these guys that is deliberately trying to destroy Germany, embarrass Germany. Boy, incredible. So that's how Germany has reacted to this Nord Stream news. We're going to give you double the money to the military. Double the money to the military. So here's what Zelensky should do. So here's my advice to the little green Z-man My advice to the Z-Man is this. And Podolyak, Yermak, Zelensky, I know you watch these videos, so listen up. Listen up, my man. I am going to give you some really good advice as to how to handle this. This is what you got to do now. Now that you've got everything set up, you've got the coordinator, you've got him in prison, you've laid down the foundation for the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage setup. It's all there. Just come out in one of your nightly Instagram, TikTok videos. And just come out and say, people of the world, people of America, and people of Germany, I am moving to arrest General Valery Zaluzhny because, Mr. Zaluzhny, it has come to my attention that he blew up big pipeline, and this is wrong. This is very wrong. I do not support blowing up big pipeline, and so I will arrest General Zaluzhny. And I want my good friend Olaf Scholz and my very good friend Joe Bidenopoulos, I want you to know that Ukraine, we follow law. We arrest scoundrels like Zaluzhny. So give me some money. The Washington Post article, by the way, it says that all of this was done, like all of this pipeline sabotage business was done while keeping Zelensky 100% out of the loop. And the Washington Post makes it a point to stress that there is no way, there's absolutely zero way that Zelensky knew about this, because the Washington Post, they interviewed a whole bunch of anonymous officials who said that they're confident that there's no way Zelensky would have known about this. So they make it a point to say that Zelensky knew nothing about what was going on. So I just want to say that. So yeah, that's what Zelensky should do. So he clears Biden. He clears the Biden White House. So now we can say that, all of those conspiracy theorists who thought that the Biden White House was behind the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage, well, they're in the clear now. Who would have ever thought that Biden would blow up the Nord Stream pipeline? I mean, just because he gave a press conference standing next to Olaf Scholz and he said, I'm going to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, it doesn't mean that he would blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, come on, conspiracy theorists. So they're in the clear. Olaf Scholz and his relationship with the United States and Biden, that's in the clear. Zelensky, he can arrest Zaluzhny. He gets rid of his rival. All good. And Zelensky, he can go to Germany, to Europe, to the United States, to NATO, and he can say, you see, we got the guys. Rule of law. Rule of law. And if it meant that we had to arrest our general because of what he did, well, we arrested him. No one is above the law. He can say that line. No one above law. And, the collective West, they love that line. No one is above the law. They absolutely love that line. So he can use that one as well. So, yeah, that's Nord Stream, everybody. We're coming very close to wrapping up the whole Nord Stream thing. So, sticking with NATO, since I brought up NATO, we have the former NATO Secretary General, Mr. What's the guy's name? Anders Rasmussen. He came out and he said that you know what, we should move to put Ukraine into NATO, even though they have a territorial dispute and there's a conflict currently in Ukraine, which, according to NATO rules, bars Ukraine from entering NATO, disqualifies Ukraine. But Rasmussen, he said we should forget about those NATO rules and we should allow Ukraine into NATO, whatever parts of Ukraine we can allow into NATO, and that would give Ukraine Article 5 protection right away. And then Russia would have to back off because NATO would be obligated to step into conflict Ukraine. So that is what this former NATO chief said the other day. And we can forget about the fact that Mr. Rasmussen is currently an advisor to Ukraine. That's like one of his current consulting gigs. So no conflict of interest there, none at all. But that's his plan. That is what he says NATO should do. That's his advice, actually, to NATO. Let Ukraine in, and Russia's going to back off because we're going to have Article 5 protection for Ukraine. Whatever parts of Ukraine can be let into NATO. That's what this guy is floating out there. Of which he's mistaken, by the way, because he's thinking that Russia's going to back off if you were to break NATO's rules and put Ukraine into NATO. I'm thinking the exact opposite. I'm thinking that Russia's not going to back off. If Russia has to take on NATO and destroy NATO, that's exactly what they'll do. So, I mean, I think that Mr. Rasmussen is mistaken in his calculations and his analysis. But that's what he said. And we have Macron. Macron is talking all kinds of craziness. I need to go out that way. And we return back to that BBC interview that I talked about yesterday in my video, where Macron was talking about Israel and the war in Gaza. Well, Macron also talked a bit about Project Ukraine. And Macron said to the BBC that Russia cannot be allowed to win. He said if Russia wins, then Europe has a new imperial power. And that's going to be a problem, according to Macron. If Russia wins, we have a new imperial power in Europe. That is what Macron told the BBC. And you know, this is very upsetting to Macron, because in Macron's mind, he's Napoleon. He's the imperial power. That's basically what Macron is saying. He's like, wait a minute. Putin's not going to be the imperial power. I'm Jupiter. I'm Napoleon. I'm the imperial power. Damn it. I'm the imperial power. We can't allow Russia to win because I'm Napoleon. I'm the king of Europe. That's what Macron is really upset about. So that's what he told the BBC. Macron also said this. Now, this is odd. Macron said that... one sec. He said that in the next month, the war will be decided in Ukraine. Without getting into the details as to what's going to happen next month. He didn't say what's going to be going on next month that will mean that the conflict in Ukraine will be decided. He just kind of blurted it out. Next month, December, the war will be decided. Okay, all right. What's going on next month? I don't know. Don't tell me we're going to have a super duper winter counteroffensive, Macron. Is that what you guys are planning? A super duper winter counteroffensive? Anyway, no one knows what Macron meant when he said that. But he said it. Jungle Joseph Borrell, he was speaking at an event yesterday, and an event I think some European socialist convention or something like that. And Jungle Joseph, he said that there is no victory in sight for Ukraine in this war. He said it's not going to happen. He said that this war is going to last a long time. And then Jungle Joseph said, you know what? This war is going to last a long time. So any EU country, any European country that has the means, has the money, and has the weapons to support Ukraine for the long run, give it over. That's what Jungle Joseph said. Give over your money and your weapons if you've got them, because this is going to take a long, long time to resolve. And Jungle Joseph, he also said, this is interesting. He said that Europe cannot depend on the US to support Project Ukraine. And he said Europe is going to have to provide the weapons and the funding for Project Ukraine. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen, Jungle Joseph. That is definitely not going to happen. And let's see. Yeah, I can sit down. And we have, shifting gears a bit, we had an Arab League meeting that took place yesterday in Saudi Arabia. And this was an emergency meeting. And this was focused on the war in Israel and in Gaza, an emergency for the war and the bombing in Gaza. And this was an interesting meeting of Arab leaders, of Muslim countries, and they all met in Saudi Arabia. And I believe this was the first meeting between Assad and MBS. Also, Assad met with Erdogan as well. And so that was pretty big news. And during this conference, we kind of hit a bit of an impasse. Well, let me give you the good, the interesting. Let me give you the interesting and the, well, I'm trying to see, how should I phrase this? Let me give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. No, let me tell you what happened here. The interesting part about this meeting was, number one, that you had Assad, who at one point in recent history was actually fighting against Saudi Arabia and Turkey, MBS and Erdogan. He arrives in Saudi Arabia and he actually meets Erdogan and MBS. So head of state meeting, which is very significant given everything that was happening in Syria just a few years ago. So that was interesting. The other interesting part about this meeting is that you do have a unification of the Arab and the Muslim world. Sunni, Shiite, they are unified, or it seems like they are unified around what is happening in Gaza. So I think that's significant. You also had Raisi of Iran was also there, and he met with MBS, so Iran and Saudi Arabia meeting as well. So we're seeing that this war in Israel is unifying much of the Muslim world. So that's significant. That's interesting. The other thing that happened was that they tried to pass various proposals for how they could deal, how this unified group of Arab and Muslim countries, how they can deal with the war in Israel and the bombing of Gaza. And they tried to pass various proposals. For example, closing U.S. bases in the region, threatening oil, some retaliation with oil. What else? They called for an immediate ceasefire and stuff like that. I think the two big ones. Oh, closing off airspace to Israeli fighter jets. But I think the two big ones was the threatening of using oil as a weapon in order to get Israel to stop bombing Gaza and to get to a ceasefire. So using oil and closing U.S. bases. I think those were the two big proposals that they wanted to get passed so that they could force an end to this war, or at least a ceasefire. And they couldn't get that passed. They couldn't get those proposals passed. You had something like 11 countries vote yes for these proposals. You had a bunch of countries abstain. And then you had 4 countries vote no. Now, the countries that abstained and voted no to these proposals, they were kept secret. No one knows which countries these were. They don't know the 4 countries. Some rumors are saying that it was Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Morocco, UAE. Other rumors are saying Egypt was one of those countries. We don't know. We don't know which countries said no, we're not going to support these proposals. So I think that's interesting. You do have a unification taking place, but it's not there yet. They can't act together with one voice and one action in order to stop the war and get to a ceasefire. Compel the United States, force the United States to force Israel to a ceasefire. Make it very painful for the United States, closing U.S. military bases, messing around with oil. That would make it very painful for the United States, and that maybe it might push the U.S. to push Israel to stop the war, but they couldn't get there. They could not get there. The artist is Batsoglu. That's the artist. So that was a very important meeting that took place yesterday. Now let's do a couple of more stories, and then we can get to kind of a clown world, I guess. Real quick, did you guys see the video from a couple of days ago where the Russian military, they were like clearing out an area in, I don't know if it was the Avdiivka direction or the Bakhmut direction. I'm not quite sure where, but they were clearing out an area, and they heard a woman yelling, "Stop shooting, I'm pregnant." True story. The video is out there. And basically what happened here is that this is a woman fighter, a pregnant woman fighter, that the Ukraine military, as we have been reporting, has now recruited her and many women into the military and into the front lines. And she was pregnant, and her fellow soldiers had abandoned her. Her Ukrainian soldiers abandoned her, and she was left all alone. And as the Russians were clearing out the area and advancing, she yelled, "Don't shoot, I'm pregnant. Stop, don't shoot, I'm pregnant." So the news about Ukraine not only running out of soldiers, which is now absolutely accepted by everybody that's following this conflict, whether you're pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine, or in the middle, but the Zelensky regime, they're not only recruiting women, but pregnant women at that. So that was an interesting, if you believe what she was saying, that she's pregnant. But that was an interesting video that's making the rounds on social media, and kind of 2 clown worlds to wrap up this video. Xi Jinping will be traveling to San Francisco for the Asia Pacific Economic Summit, the APEC Summit, and as San Francisco prepares to welcome Xi Jinping, we are getting all kinds of videos and photos of a clean San Francisco. Streets are clean. No more garbage on the street. No more human poop on the street, or needles and syringes on the street. None of that stuff. They are cleaning up San Francisco for the arrival of Xi Jinping and a meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Bidenopoulos, which shows that if they want to, they can they can clean up the cities, make the cities in the United States livable again, especially a city as beautiful, or what was one time as beautiful as San Francisco, which really is a beautiful city. If they really want to clean it up, they can clean it up. But it takes the arrival of Xi Jinping to force the government, the local government officials of San Francisco, to clean up the city. So I thought that was interesting news. And we have this magazine cover and an article out of Polish media, which is saying goodbye Pinocchio. They're saying goodbye to the pro-Ukrainian Prime Minister Morawiecki. The local publication, Polityka, depicted the Prime Minister in Ukrainian colors, hinting at the politician's numerous unfulfilled promises due to his rabid support for Kiev. Morawiecki will soon be replaced by Donald Tusk from the opposition coalition that won the recent elections. According to some statements by Tusk, support for the Kiev regime from Warsaw will only increase. I guess that's the clown world there. So they're upset with Morawiecki because he didn't really pay much attention to Poland, and he put all of his focus and all of his attention on Project Ukraine. And they're saying goodbye to Pinocchio. That is the cover of this article from Polish media. And I guess the clown world in all of this is that Donald Tusk is going to be 1,000 times worse when it comes to Project Ukraine. So, Donald Tusk is saying, Morawiecki, you guys are upset with Morawiecki because all he did was give money to the Zelensky regime. Hold my beer. That is what Donald Tusk is going to say. So anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop, 20% off. Pick up a long sleeve shirt like the one I'm wearing today. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. Take care.
And have a lot of energy.